This week's guest is rapper, teacher, world record holder, Raheem Jarbo, aka Random, aka MegaRan. How are you, man?
I'm great, man. It's a great intro, straight to the point. I love it. I love it. It was like a perfectly concise intro to who and what I am. So thank you for that.
How's the last couple of years been for you? Because over the last 2 years of COVID, I've spoken to a few musicians, and I know it's been tough. So how's it been for you?
Oh, it's been tough for sure, but I've just been working harder than I ever have in my life. That's really what it is. On top of that, we've had a new addition to the family over this time.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We are fostering an amazing 6-month-old. And so we've had him for about 5 months now. And so that's definitely changed our whole life. But, I was able to pivot, switch gears and do some other things during that time. So I'm kind of thankful for the time off because I toured almost nonstop. So I never got to finish the book. I never got to finish a couple of different projects that I started working on. So being at home allowed me the time to finish up a lot of things. So that's why the book got done. It wouldn't have gotten done otherwise.
Well, let's talk about the book, man. I finished it a couple of days ago, and it was one of those books where I picked it up and I read it within a day.
Wow.
I really got engrossed in the story, in your story, and
Wow. Thank you.
I loved how honest you are in it. Was that? I keep not all my questions are going to be, was it tough? But was it? Did you set out to be that honest in the book, or did that just sort of come out as you were writing it?
It kind of came out, honestly. I was it was going to be like a self-help guide, I think, just like stories of things that have happened in my life, what I've learned from them, and then how other people can apply them to maybe their situations. But as I started telling those stories, I realized, man, there were some kind of heart-wrenching moments and all this stuff. So I've been doing a disservice if I wasn't honest about them, So and I think that's where people can pull a lesson from, is this like brutal honesty sometimes. So my music's always been an open book, so I didn't see any reason to be any different with the writing of the book. So yes, it was difficult, because there are now people, casual fans who know very, very intimate details of my life, but I don't mind that. I feel like if someone can take a lesson from those things and it helps to maybe frame their understanding of my music or my approach, then it's a good thing.
Absolutely. Like I say, it's I learned so much about you from it. Feeling like, oh yeah, he's, like you say, he's quite open and stuff, and then actually getting into the book, like, oh wow, he's being really open.
Wow. So what's one thing you learned about me that you didn't know from the book?
Well, I'd say it's more of like the struggles of you as a person, and like you start really early with the story of your uncle, and that was tough, man. That was tough to read. And you sort of set up how much you love this guy and how important he is to you, and then to have what happens is, I was like, wow, that's soul, man. That's tough. And just the sort of the struggles that you have, where you say, like, you were told at a young age that you will have to work harder and be better just to get noticed. And so and I found that really interesting, that that's obviously that's something I don't have to deal with, and that, it was really interesting to hear that.
Yeah, I think both of those situations you mentioned are so crucial to me becoming MegaRan and who I am, So I had to mention those, for sure. I think, especially my uncle, I think that's like the moment that I credit most of my career. Like, it was a turning point for me where I was just like, oh, wow, like, it's the first time I've ever experienced a loss, and I was just like old enough to process it, but not really, I'm still in college and trying to figure things out. And I think that's what told me that, like, our time here is limited. So I gotta make up for lost time and get get on the grind. I saw DJ Jazzy Jeff said something about a book he had read that encourages creators to die empty, meaning that like don't leave anything unsaid, unrecorded, unreleased, that you could have put out there, So that's really been my goal since then. It's like, no, I'm going to make sure everything that needs to be said is going to be said. I'm going to make sure to empty the clip and make sure everything's out there, so that's why I work so hard,
Yeah. And the idea of like not putting anything out that's not finished after you've gone, where you're like, you watch like the first few minutes of the Michael Jackson documentary and like turned it off. You're like, no, this is not how he wanted the show to be seen. So I'm not going to watch it like that.
For sure. You got it. That's the thing. If you don't put it out before you die, someone's going to mess with it after you die. So you got to really, kind of be aware of that. I hate to say it, but, I've told my, like I said, my friends, my family, my engineer, like, please don't mess with my old vocals and old things and, turn out, just make me into a parody of myself, but yeah, if you put your all into it while you're here, and make sure that it's all done, or at least all of a high quality standard, you won't maybe have to worry about that.
Yeah. I have a weird feeling with that, with like where they've started putting dead actors into films and stuff. Like, would they be okay with this? Would like Harold Ramis be okay with you putting him in the Ghostbusters?
Yeah, I don't like that at all, man. I mean, and then they'll be like, well, we talked to the family and the family said it's okay. And it's like, well, still, that's not the person. The family will, accept a check and an acknowledgement. But do you know if that was that person's will? Like, same with Prince. I'm a huge, big Prince fan. And Prince had so much music in the vaults. I know that we all were like, man, if we ever get to hear this. And then after he dies, there's something coming out every year. And we're like, I don't know if he really wanted this out, So it makes me feel a little weird about it.
All of these rappers is mumbling. I can't understand none of them. Guess I'm old and out of touch with them. But I'ma try to have fun with them. Sit down and promethazine. You youngins are ruining everything. So I'ma take this time to rap about better things like Mega Man. Yo.
Let's talk about Capcom. Because for the uninitiated, your stage name is MegaRan, which is awfully close to a video game that people will be familiar with. You have like a little black version of Mega Man as like one of your logos. How do you get away with that? How have you not been sued into oblivion by now?
Wow, that's a funny story. Well, they found me way back in the day, and I was trying to hide. I thought I could stay below the radar, but I made a Mega Man rap album, like just remixing some tunes, and it got their attention. They messaged me and they were like, hey, we like this. And I'm like, oh, shoot, you do? And they're like, yeah, cool. We got some events going on. You should be a part of them. Like, we want to make Mega Man a bigger part of our future plans. So you can help with that. And I'm like, of course I'm down, So they gave me what at that time was the first licensing agreement between an independent musician and a major AAA game developer, so pretty insane. So that's how, in the short version.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's like on the back of Mega Man 9.
Hey, I see it back there with the
Capcom's logo on the back of it, and
yeah.
I remember buying this off you at a show and thinking that was so cool to be that you're actually endorsed. But
yeah, it's pretty insane. We went. I put out the original ones, of course, without the logo, and then once they gave me the okay, I was like, oh man, we got to repress this and make it look official. Put the logo on there. And what they told me is like, man, this is fan art. And we're really like proud to present this. And I was like, oh yeah, it is fan art, like we don't think about that. Like you sample from, I don't know, David Bowie. I don't know if his estate's going to be like, oh yeah, it's fan art. That's really cool. Like I don't know any other place where that could have happened, And so I really expected the worst, like that they were going to sue me. And they were like, we'll give you a licensing agreement. And I'm like, what does that even mean? And they're like, well, for starters, it means we won't sue you. And I'm like, oh, great. That's all I need. Just don't sue me.
Y'all share the same brain, so that's not really.
I got this.
Okay, now it ain't over. We got one more. We can y'all.
MegaRan, hold my trombone.
Take him home, X.
Obviously, another big part of you and who you are is wrestling, and you ended up in the SmackDown ring during a rap battle with the New Day. How did that happen, man? I was so excited when I saw like screenshots pop up this morning. I was like, no way.
That was insane, man. Xavier Woods is a good friend of mine, wrestler, member of the New Day. And he's such a visionary. Like, so he's always planning these really cool storylines. And he just hit me up and was like, I think we want to do a rap battle. And I'm like, what? How? He's like, yeah, well, we got Wale involved and some other people. And it's going to be like really cool. It's going to be like 8 Mile style. Like we're going to be like in a basement rapping. And I'm like, well, that's cool. And then he's like, we're going to be doing it in Phoenix. And I'm like, oh, I live in Phoenix. That's cool. And he's like, well, can you come? And I'm like, yes. Okay. He's like, all right, we're going to pre-tape it. So I had to get there early in the morning for pre-tapes, like 11 a.m. And then they were like, Road Dogg was in charge of writing the segment. And he said, in fact, this segment is so good, we're not going to pre-tape it. We're going to do it live in the ring. And he looks at me and he's like, are you comfortable with getting in the ring? And I'm like, what? On TV? Like, are you kidding me? Like, it was like every one of my dreams coming true. Like, so we walked down, he showed like, we walk down the aisle and I'm just like, oh my God. Like if you would have told 10-year-old me that I'd be walking down a WWE ramp, like I just would never believe it. Like these are these things that have been in the back of my mind for forever. Like we used to have fake wrestling tournaments on our block and make belts out of cardboard and wrestle for them on the street and write down our standings and make up matches and all kinds of things, man. I've been a wrestling fan for as long as I can remember. So to be a part of that was insane. And all I did was just kind of stand there as be a part of the entourage, which was enough for me. And best part is Woods asked me, he's like, dude, thank you for taking all day. Like we took your entire day up. It was 10 a.m. when you got here. Now we're on TV at 8. Like we took your whole day, man. Like, what can we give you? What can we pay you for your time? And I'm like, pay me? What? I should be paying you. And I was like, you know what? Just give me a shout out. And he's like, all right, I got you. And so during the segment, before Woods raps, he says, MegaRan, can you hold my trombone, please? And at that moment, my phone blows up. Like everyone's like, oh my God, it is you. It's you. Oh my God. He said MegaRan. I didn't believe it till I heard MegaRan, And one of the coolest moments of my life, man. I got to thank Woods and Kofi and E for doing that for me, man. That was just super cool.
Yeah. I mean, just telling the story where you're like, I spoke to the road agent who was Road Dogg. And you're like, it's like, stop there. That's already cool enough, isn't it? Just
yeah, it really is. I'm like, wow, this guy I've been watching since a kid is like handing us the scripts for the segment. It was insane.
And having like Xavier slide into your DMs, wasn't it? Because he wanted to use one of your songs when he was.
That was how we started. Yeah, he sent me like an unsolicited email way back in the day, like, "Hi, I'm this wrestler, and I just would love to use one of your songs." And he said back in the day at NXT when it was FCW, Florida Championship Wrestling, they were allowed to pick their own entrance music. And so he just searched for Mega Man music and he found my stuff. And then he's like, dude, can I use one of your songs? I'm like, yeah. So there's a song called Look It Up that he uses in early FCW matches. And he's like, dude, one day I'm going to get you to make my music. I don't know how, but you're going to make my music one day. And then lo and behold, many years later, he becomes King of the Ring. And this part isn't even in the book because it happened so recently. It's going to have to be in part 2 that I got a chance to finally write his theme music, which was for the King Woods Bow Down theme, which I don't think they use anymore, but I don't know. But maybe it'll come back at some point.
It's still cool to just be that involved with something you love, like you say. Just standing in the ring next to the New Day was enough for you. And so then to have even more on top of that is just awesome.
Yeah, it all came from kind of wearing your wearing your loves and your influences on your sleeve, like just not being afraid of that. And I grew up kind of being afraid of that. Like, oh, I can't tell the hip hoppers that I love video games or anime or comic books, even though they all did, we all love the same stuff. And so perfect example, when I went on tour with B. Dolan, he's like, dude, like, I love video games too. Let me tell you about Castlevania and what I did on this. And he said, in fact, I got a song where I sample Castlevania. Let me play that on. He started playing that on tour. And I was just like, wow, you know what I mean? Like you see it in so many different places. Like, and this is where it's usually my common ground with so many of my favorite musicians, wrestlers, rappers, actors. It's video games. We wind up just talking about our favorite games and they're like, oh yeah, I love this game and this game too, but they just never had anybody really to talk about it with.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's like you say, it's that, like you talk about in the book of like, you'd never really heard rappers being sort of honest about their nerdiness apart from like maybe the Wu-Tang talking about, the Kung Fu movies that they, it's relatable, isn't it, to everyone? You're like, oh, okay, yeah. I like hip hop and I like video games and I like, it's you feel like when you find someone like you, so as a fan, like when you find someone like you, what was this made for me? Is this this guy's talking about old video games, but it's rap
for sure. And that was me. I was just trying to make something that like younger me would have really enjoyed and appreciated. It's like I didn't know anybody who loved rap and loved video games and loved comic books, outside of, like I said, Wu-Tang or, there'd be occasional people here and there. And I think for me, Wu-Tang, Dell, then MF Doom were like my biggest inspirations on like really embracing, my inner nerd,
Yeah, you certainly made it cool. The
Thanks, man.
101, the last step done. Still type stun at the person I become. Double think got me sharp as a knife. I'm just doing my job in the 1984.
When in my little intro, I said you're a world record holder. You have possibly the most niche world record. That's going. And I always say that about world records is like, just find something that only you do, and then like
you'd be surprised. I feel like this world record was made for me. This guy at Guinness calls me up and was like, hey, just a quick question. How many songs do you have about Mega Man? And I'm like, a lot. And he's like, wow, I definitely think you're the person who's written the most songs about a single game or, franchise. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, that's a record. So how'd you like to come and, pick up a plaque and do some cool stuff for the gaming edition of the Guinness World Records? And I'm like, what? This is incredible. So absolutely, I said, but yeah, it's very niche, but they put a number on it, which now puts a target on my back. So there's probably some rapper out there gunning for my, I think 136 and trying to beat that so that they can take my record.
Especially like when you talk about how Guinness treated you on the day where they like, you came to England for it, and they put you on a car and put you on it, like had a big photo shoot and stuff. It sounds like they were really excited to have you.
Oh yeah, it was just a great moment, man. Like I felt like I was being crowned or something. It was just a really cool. I was like, this must be what Harry and Meghan feel like, when they come to town. Cause I'm like, this is amazing. Like you come out, somebody grabs your luggage, you get into a car, you're whisked away, you show up, they're like, oh, anything you need right here. They have some snacks from the Tesco right on the side, maybe some nuts and, just some things around. And it was just a really cool moment, man. Like they treated me, like royalty. And I appreciate that. Just for this niche little record. I got a chance to have like the most exciting time out there.
And how's the UK as a whole for you? Do you like touring the UK?
Oh, I love it out there. I got to get back out soon. UK is one of my favorite places to tour. Between just London, just being full of so much culture, and Manchester, one of my favorite cities to play, Man, I've been all up and down the UK, and I really, really hope to come back real soon.
Yeah, we always love to see you, man.
Yeah.
It's always an event, you always put on such a good show.
Thank you. And I love the fact that, and maybe because we are traveling so far, like I feel like the fans appreciate that, and so they come out and they stay long and we talk and we have long conversations at merch tables. And, like people really appreciate the fact that I took the time to come out, and play a gig. So it really means a lot. It really does. Like that's something I could have never imagined. Like I always sit back like, man, I could be doing lesson plans right now. And instead I'm playing a show and freaking Glasgow, like it's just amazing to be able to do these things that we do and rapping about video games nonetheless, like I still remember the last show we did in Scotland. I went and got a kilt and I came to the stage playing the Rowdy Piper music, and so Rowdy Piper's music's playing and I was just like, I'm literally living my dream, like my childhood fantasy here, and getting paid to do it. Like, this is incredible. So, and it just took the strength and the courage to be able to take that leap,
Yeah.
and to step away from something that seems so secure and comfortable and to try something new.
Yeah. Again, like it's so inspirational. Like you say, your book ended up being more of a memoir than a self-help book, but it's it's so inspirational. It really is. Your stories, it just makes you want to. It's one of those stories that you're like, oh man, I want to go and do so. It's like when you first hear like Kevin Smith's story or something, you're like, fuck, I want to go and make a film. Like
nice. That's cool. I just want to be able to inspire people to do that. Like if you got cool ideas inside of you, like I want to see those ideas get made and hopefully inspire a little bit of that, like that really makes my day when people tell me like, dude, like I saw your story and I saw you on stage and then it really encouraged me to go and pick up this project that I've been meaning to, start. And like, that's really what I want to see is just to try to leave things a little better than I found them, I guess. If that makes sense. It's pretty corny, but Yeah,
you have like beautiful turns of phrase as well. Like the one that stuck with me from the book is grand opening, grand closing. Like, something big happened, but it fizzled quite quickly. Like grand opening, grand closing.
Yep. Sometimes and that's a part of life, and as a creative, especially, man, like we get so many opportunities where you think the ones I didn't write about in the book, where people were just like, oh man, I'm about to sign this big record deal, or oh man, this song's about to make it into a big movie, and then the movie doesn't happen, the deal doesn't happen, like the trip doesn't happen, like, oh, I'm going to take you around the world on a tour, and that doesn't happen, So there's so many letdowns that are a part of this that you have to have tough skin and be able to kind of bounce back. I liken it to in American football, they talk about having tunnel vision as a quarterback. Like you got to be able to just look straight ahead and focus and not worry about what just happened, the last play, or, oh, I just threw the ball to the other team. Like, oh man, I messed up, but they got to come right back out and play. So it's really having a short memory when those grand opening, grand closings come, you gotta have a short memory and keep it moving.
And so what's the plan? I know you're heading out on tour at the end of this week.
I am.
So are you looking forward to the tour and what's coming up for the rest of the year?
Oh man, I'm really looking forward to this. I haven't been out on a tour since last fall. And so I'm looking forward to it. We're mostly doing the West Coast of the US and then ending in Texas and then flying to Atlanta for a convention. So the shows are selling well. I'm really looking forward to getting out. I haven't done a headlining tour in a very long time. So I got new songs I want to play. I got new stuff I want to put out, new merch. The album Live 95 came out last fall, but I got to play a little bit of it on the last tour, but now I get to really dig in and play some songs from that I really love. So it's very much themed around like old school basketball, and that's something that I never thought I'd really be able to focus on and talk about, because as a self-proclaimed nerd, like most nerds are not into athletic competition in any way. So it's really difficult to get them to care about basketball, but I've been very lucky to have folks that are really down with it and when they want to hear more, so yeah, the tour is coming soon, touring with Samus, Richie Branson, and Rustage. Rustage is from the UK, actually. He's from London. Very, very talented young cat who's coming on his first US tour. And the rest of the folks I've been out with before. And everybody's just really excited. I think the people are too. Like, we've been all locked down for so long. We've done what we're supposed to do. We've been in masks, we've been vaxxed, and we're gonna come out and be safe and have a good time. And I'm gonna play some unreleased music from this next project that's coming. I'm going to try something new for my next project. I'm going to release it only on Patreon. So it's going to be an entire album that's only on Patreon until maybe 3 months from now, when it'll come out for everyone else. But you'll get it 3 months early on Patreon.
That's a good idea. It's you mentioned B. Dolan earlier. It's like, when I spoke to him towards the start of lockdown, and he's sort of pivoted heavily into Patreon, and it seems to be really working for him. Mm-hmm. It's nice to, that there's a way that creative people can sort of meet the audience and get that bit of, the audience can get a bit closer to the artist, and then, there's a direct sort of income for the artist. I think Patreon's great.
Patreon for sure is the way. Discord, we have so many ways now to be personally attached to our fans. And I think during lockdown, especially when you realize, like, every artist is trying to reach their fans. Everybody's trying to put something out. Like, you have to have a way to go direct to the consumer, and I think sites like Bandcamp help with that, and others. But if you're not able to corral your audience and keep them in a place together where they can help you, when it's time for you to put out a new record, help you be heard, help you be seen, then you could really fall behind. So Patreon's been a huge help for that. So I decided I was going to throw everything into Patreon and just kind of see how that works.
Like I say, I think it's great. When people first started mentioning Patreon, I was like, what is this thing? I think B. Dolan said in my interview with him, he said, like, I'm an elder millennial. I don't want to learn a new app.
True. That's how I feel about Discord now. I'm like, what the heck, man? Like, there's always something new. Like, but like, the kids swear by it. Like, you got to learn this stuff. And especially indie artists, like, if we're not on the cutting edge of technology, man, like, then we're going to lose, because so many of the indies get lost in the shuffle once the big guys start picking up on all these things. I look at it like, oh, Joe Budden's on Patreon. Like, I'm no better than Joe Budden, so I need to be on Patreon, like, absolutely.
But yeah, and it's like, say, with the getting left behind as well, the bigger platforms now, where it's like Facebook and Twitter and whatever, it's like, unless you're giving them money, they don't want to help promote you. Like,
no, why would they want to do that? They want you to promote Discord and arguments and things that'll keep people in their sites, and misinformation and things like that. So that's really what they want. They want arguments to happen, and and controversy, not some rappers playing a show at my local pub. Like, they don't care, and you got to just pour tons of money into that stuff. And and I've done it over the years, because I thought that was the only way, and now it's just like, I refuse, man. I can't feed the beast anymore. I cannot. I refuse to feed the machine. I can't. So we're going to build it our own way. And, I always read about a lot of self-help books, or Gary V and folks are always saying, like, find your tribe. Like, you got to find your tribe. Like, when I first started 15 years ago, I didn't know that there were people who like hip hop that also liked video games, that also like comic books, also like sneakers, that, like, I didn't think there would ever be a cross section of all those people. So putting out the music helped me to find those people, and now that we have a group of a few thousand who are into this, that's all we need. If we can stay together, then I can keep feeding the people directly what they want, and they will hopefully be pleased with that, and they'll tell their friends, and that's it.
And where can people keep up with you if they want to find out about the tour and what you're up to? And where's the best place to send people?
Well, I like my website, megaran.com, as the best place. I'm on Twitter a lot, so I hang out there. I do a lot of my ranting there. There's also a Discord. You can get a link from that on megaran.com. So yeah, just find me anywhere on the internet. MegaRan. It looks like Meg Ryan the first time you look at it because I like to capitalize the M and the R. So someone's going to be like, I thought that was Meg Ryan. No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah, I did the same with like Gingerbeard Mark, all one word, but with capitalization.
There you go. So everybody think, oh, I thought it said gingerbread Mark, you know, or something like that.
MegaRan, thank you so much for talking to me, man. Really appreciate it.
Dude, thanks for the time, man. I appreciate it. Hope to see you on a tour in the UK very soon.
Definitely. We'll have a merch table chat like the old days.
Of course. Of course.
You have to polish yourself, Mark.